What has improved your quality of life so much that you wish you had done it sooner? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. Retiring from corporate bullshit world and getting a job at a doggy daycare. I play with puppies all day now. After my husband died, suddenly I just couldn't deal with corporate world anymore. My dogs come to work with me, and I am just greeted by the unconditional love of 40 dogs every day. Best therapy ever. Story 2. Stop thinking only about others. As a child, I wanted to help all people around me, but when I became old enough, I understood that I needed to think about me as well. I hope it will be a good advice for someone to always remember about yourself as well. Answer. Be careful about belonging to high-demand religions or organizations too. They can distort your own healthy notions of self-care. I had had a nervous breakdown and was an inpatient in a mental hospital, and wasn't until I was actually in therapy that I found out that it was okay to take care of myself. My religion taught me, lose yourself in the work, which is another way of saying, forget yourself and think only about the organization, and if you only think about us, you won't realize that you have any problems. It almost destroyed my life. Story 3. Not giving a shit about work. Sounds bad, but I still take pride in my work. I don't rush anymore because of the lack of planning from some other moron. I don't care, stress-free attitude. Now I have accumulated enough FU money that can support the family for just over a year if I needed to. Also, I have adopted the 75-80 workload day, not the 100 a project manager wanted. The rest of the time is for phone calls, checking over work, organizing information, so I don't have to look it up or learn something new. I'm amazed how well it works and how much more productive than trashing out, making mistakes and stressing trying to meet deadlines. I had a few threats earlier on, but as I said, I didn't give now I'm left alone to do my job. Answer. Whenever a friend or colleague has had a burnout, one thing they do to protect themselves is they stop giving a shoot. I adopted the same mentality 10 years ago. Everyone else is always running from meeting to meeting, telling me how busy they are or pretending to be busy. Meanwhile, I haven't suffered a day at work, except for the uncertainty during layoffs. I just take it chill, and the second I clock out, I actually clock out and don't care about work even a little bit unless I'm back at work again. Like real-life severance. Story 4. I quit smoking plant substance. I was smoking a ridiculous amount. For a long time it was helpful, but eventually at some point it started working against me, feeding my depression and dragging me down further and further into it. I smoked for 13 years. Answer. This is why I think honest education about substances use is so important. To just say no culture probably did more harm than good. Kids smell bullshit, and when you say you're going to get addicted the first time you do a pot or you're funding terrorism with your dime bag, then they try it and find out substances are awesome and it was all a lie. The same flip side. With legalization, it was like JK plant substance is great and has no downsides. Well, science and anecdotal evidence like yours says that is complete bullshit. The South Park monologue about substances use was more anti-substances than any school program ever was. I think occasional use is still fine for some people in moderation, but just like adult beverage, if you let it become a big part of your life, it can be devastating. Story 5. Showing gratitude. It's not about God or religion. Make your own spirituality. I take from religions and do what I want in life. The most important lesson I learned is I may not be able to save the world, but I can make my corner of it better. I'm grateful I have a job that lets me meet people. I'm grateful for my apartment. I'm grateful for the food I cook and eat. I'm grateful for the people I meet and learning about their stories and perspectives. I'm grateful for my health, and if a little vain, my looks. I'm happy I have the confidence I wished for as a child to make friends and lovers alike. I'm grateful for the music and art I get to experience every day. Every little detail, even the bad stuff, be grateful to have the opportunity to learn, relax. Good times nor bad times last. There's a book I read called FCK by John C. Parkin. Really taught me to let go of a lot of things out of my control and think clearer about my intentions in life. Story 6. This may be trivial, but wireless headphones. The ability to call, receive, or decline, change music and move my head around without snagging was unreal to me. I did not even know what I was missing. Story 7. Trigger warning for surgery. I have a pretty wicked skin condition. I got my armpits cut out a couple years ago on both sides. The skin completely removed and sewn back together. I have hidradenitis suppurativa. Before, I was unable to lift my arms above my chest, reach behind me, or pick anything up. Even a slight stretch could and would break open sores and sinus tracts that I was riddled with. Each and every break, split, or slight damage would make more sore and tracks. It mainly happens in your hot spots like armpits, groin, and underboobs, but it also shows up on my scalp. I take a crap ton of meds that eliminate my immune system to help with the overswelling and overhealing my body does. I was pretty much immobile and was terribly overweight because of it. Constantly in searing pain and fighting off major infections for years. Getting my armpits cut out was life-changing. I have full range of motion, and I can and do go to the gym regularly now. Lost over 50 LEBs. I'm also not constantly fighting off the major infections that were brewing in them anymore. And I think that has definitely helped me feel better overall. It'll never go away completely, and I'll always have to deal with my HS. But not having hairy armpits or dealing with a strong BO smell after a super sweaty gym workout is kind neat. Story 8. Gym eating real food. Realizing my job is just a job, and if I leave or get fired, there are plenty of other jobs out there to do. I don't instantly become homeless and die because I leave a job I don't like. Story 9. Selling my house and moving into an apartment a few years ago. No more yard work, no more high-cost home repairs or hours fixing things around the house. My kids are grown. I don't need the extra space. I have a nice little deck. I grill at the clubhouse. Story 10. Honestly, cutting off toxic people. I used to think I had to hold on to every friendship just because of how long I'd known someone or out of guilt. But the truth is, not everyone is your friend, and that's okay. Once I stopped forcing connections and started focusing on the people who actually bring value and peace into my life, things got so much better. I'd rather have a small circle of real ones than be surrounded by fake energy. Because when you lying in bed going through something and have no one to actually talk to about it gives you a clear picture of what is what. So quality over quantity, always. Story 11. Slowing down, not rushing. Context. I'm a professional writer and business owner in the UK. For the past 5 years, I'm always in a rush, forgetting things, treating people and tasks like tick box exercises, things to be done, anxious and exhausted, getting home and mindlessly looking at screens. In January, I had enough. I had dinner with a friend who said, "The root of many people's troubles is rushing." It really hit me. So I slowed down, enjoyed what I was doing, whether it's walking the dog, writing, talking to someone, or just relaxing at home. And it's made me so much happier. Not richer or wiser, just happier. Sarita, Story 12. If it takes 10 minutes or less, do the thing right there and then. You will be surprised how much you get done and how appreciative people in your life will be. Don't just say, "I'll do it later." Get up and do the thing. Story 13. For years, I thought I was just not a morning person. I'd wake up 10 minutes before work, barely functioning, slam caffeine, and feel like I was chasing the day from the second I opened my eyes. Always late, always stressed, always tired. Then one morning, after a rough night and no sleep, I just got up at 5 a.m. No reason. I sat on my porch in total silence, watching the sun come up with a blanket and some crappy instant coffee. And for the first time in forever, I felt calm, not happy, not productive, just okay. Like my brain had room to breathe. That one morning turned into a habit. I wake up early now on purpose. Not to hustle, not to grind, just to exist before the noise starts. And honestly, it feels like I've been stealing time back from the universe. Story 14. Getting my spending under control. Was living paycheck to paycheck and miserable because I never had money to travel or go out. Started budgeting, which gave me the confidence to switch to a higher paying job. Started to realize how much money I was wasting on dumb shit and went from being paycheck to having a couple grand in the bank. Inflation has made it more difficult to keep my budget in the black. But if I didn't take the time to budget before, there's no way we would be above water right now. Story 15. As strange as it sounds, I began saving for retirement in my late 20s, and at that time I was saving a lot of money because I had fewer expenses and more money to put away. I'm glad I did that. I'm also glad I have taken care of my car and taking care of my clothes, bags, etc. because they have become more expensive in the past 5 years. Basically, take care of yourself and save money in the earlier part of your life and maintain your car. It will pay off later. Story 16. I began my healing journey by joining a 12-step program called Adult Children of Alcoholics. Still healing from childhood trauma 40 years later, but I am a bit jealous when I meet a young person who has started earlier. Story 17. I stopped going outside to socialize and started shutting myself away in my house. Since then, I've improved my cooking, house cleaning, and I'm mostly stress-free. Who knew being a shut-in was beneficial? Story 18. Therapy, establishing boundaries, and cutting out toxic people. Coming from a broken home and a messed up childhood, I didn't know things were as bad as they were until a good friend at the time pointed out things that I didn't see or couldn't. I had once, twice, sometimes 3x a week sessions until my therapist retired about a year later. They were amazing in supporting the self-work that I had put in and continue to do to this day, every day. I found out during therapy that I was allowed to have boundaries in the first place, which has made me much happier and safer. Finally, I cut out the toxic people and usually just avoid them altogether. My peace is paramount. If it's affecting my peace, out the door it goes. Story 19. I got rid of material things that added nothing to my life. No more hoarding stuff to where I'm overwhelmed in every room I walk in. I'm not perfect, but it is a lot better now that I am actively trying and self-aware. I think the hoarding stuff started when my grandma died. I inherited a lot of things, and over the years, after many moves, it became harder and harder to live with. So I'm talking clothes. We were the same size. Shoes, jewelry, pots and pans. I felt like if I threw them away or donated it, that I was throwing her away. So I kept holding on to it. Now I'm in therapy and I've let things go to a good home. Those items don't define my love for her, and they shouldn't hold me back anymore. I'm free to remember her whenever I want, and I smile when I do. Story 20. I cut out the toxic people in my life. Unfortunately, this meant some family members. I spent enormous amounts of time and energy only to have them spit in my face or ignore me. Surround yourself with people that you love and respect. Keep your door open and welcome others, but do not give in to toxic personalities. Story 21. Diaphragmatic breathing. I have severe generalized anxiety disorder since 12 and had been shallow breathing for years. Learned how to switch to diaphragmatic breathing a few months ago, and my quality of life improved a lot. I feel less anxious and I'm not in fight or flight mode 247. I can now react to changes more calmly. I still overthink sometimes, but it's way easier now to set things aside or to let things go. Story 22. Adding banana to my oatmeal. Best life-changing discovery I made. Cooked bananas are just so amazing that I don't eat them raw anymore. When you microwave them, they're so creamy like butter and have a sweeter taste. 1010's changed my life. Story 23. Stopped being a people pleaser, got comfortable with the discomfort of confrontation, and confronted family members about literal decades of mistreatment. It did not go well, and I'm kinda glad. Gave me solid reasoning to drop the rope on the last 2 family members I was still in touch with, and this is looking like the beginning of an extremely peaceful era of my life. Story 24. Finding a gynecologist that took the time to figure out why I had such painful, heavy, debilitating periods. Turns out my uterus was filled with fibroids, polyps, and cysts. Once they were surgically removed, my entire life changed. I went from living with level 6 pain on a consistent daily basis, jumping to level 10 pain during my period with fevers, achy skin, and migraines. I am allergic to over-the-counter painkillers. Now I forget I have my period BC. I don't experience cramps the same way anymore. At most level 2 pain. I still think about what life could have been for me if my family and previous doctors had actually taken my discomfort and pain seriously. I'm much happier now. Story 25. Stretching. I always heard from other old people to stretch and stuff. Before going to my trade job or the gym, I injured myself badly because of it, but slowly recovering and stretching my muscles before work makes me feel like a different person, and I don't injure myself or pull a muscle so easily. Story 26. Went no contact with my mother, and by extension, her entire family. I didn't realize that every single bit of drama I'd had in my life as an adult was because of something one of them had done or said. They're mean, messy, trashy people, and my life is so peaceful without them. I like the quiet. Story 27. I worked for so many years in Michigan as healthcare worker, making like $25-30 an hour. I moved to California pre-pandemic and now make $70 an hour doing same job. It might not seem like a lot, but that money in just 5 years has been life-changing for me and allowed me to become a millionaire. Net worth. 1. The house I bought in San Diego has appreciated $450,000 since I purchased it in 2022. 2. I fully maxed my 403B retirement fund, $24,000. 3. I drive an $80,000 BMW convertible. 4. The biggest difference is OT shifts now pay me $105 an hour instead of the $45 an hour in Michigan, which really allows me to amplify the difference in pay to orders of magnitude. I went from a struggling middle-class schlub to living a lifestyle of a mass affluent millionaire in just 5 years, simply by moving location and doing exactly the same job. Story 28. The only thing I can control is myself, and I can't control outcomes. I used to try to change and control situations and people with the best intentions. I would get all upset about politics and what other people do. It made me an anxious mess. I blamed myself when things went wrong. Now I try to focus on what I do. I try to do the next right thing. I try to be kind and help when I can, but realize I can't control outcomes, just what I do. This has increased my sense of peace immensely. Story 29. I set 15 min time limits on social media. Once I've reached 15 mins, the app closes. I have to put in a pin if I want more time. It's helped me to quit doom scrolling and absent-mindedly checking socials anytime I have a spare moment. Not getting a daily onslaught of news and opinions has helped my mental health. If I do feel the need for a little screen time, I do word puzzles on the NYT's game app. Story 30. Quit drinking adult beverage. Stopped for 30 days, felt great and wanted to keep going. Went to 6 months, felt good, but wanted to see if I could moderate my drinking. I started drinking again for a few months over the holidays and into the new year, and just felt like crap again, so I stopped. It's now been about 16 months and I don't have plans to go back. Everything has improved across the board from health to relationships. Story 31. Leaving my band and no longer making music my whole personality. I had a good reason to leave, and am still good with most of the guys, but it wasn't until some months had passed that I realized how music had utterly consumed my life, and how thankful I was that my wife and kids tolerated it. It was like a breath of fresh air for them, and my kids were so happy to just have a regular jerk dad. I kind of put all skill points into music, so I was afraid to just drop it, but once you empty yourself a little and allow more stuff in, you kind of see why you needed the change. Story 32. Making more money. I highly recommend it. I can still remember waiting in line for government cheese and watching my mom tear the stamps out of her food stamp booklet. Now I'm making 6 figures without a college degree in a 2-income house. Story 33. Hiring a house cleaner. Seriously, it was a reward for decrapifying and decluttering my entire house. And knowing someone will be in every 2 weeks forces me to put my chute away and avoid accumulation of extra crap. Because what's the point of having someone come in to clean if you have stuff everywhere? Person can't do their job. Coming home to a tidy, spacious, and relatively organized house gave me an entirely new outlook on life. Story 34. Realizing that your mind giving you old memories as screenshots in the middle of the day are not to drum up regrets, feelings of doubt, revenge, or what have you. That moment you felt is the last time you'd see an ex in person, that fun memory of a friend who's no longer in your life, that night you bawled your eyes out for whatever unholy reason, the good, the bad, the ugly. They're there to remind you of successes, mistakes, who got you there, and who didn't get you where you want. They're the brain giving you comfort food in moments of unsureness, weakness, and involuntary lapses of judgment, and not baggage to make your day suck. Story 35. I no longer drink in excess. I never realized how much I was drinking until I started taking meds that prevented me from consuming adult beverage. Even a couple drinks in the evening were affecting my sleep so much. I now sleep so soundly and feel really well rested in the morning. It's changed my whole life, waking up fresh and focused every day. Story 36. Standing outside for like 5 minutes a day in the sun, I almost immediately feel good and get a ton of energy, which for me a ton is like just enough to do the next thing I wanted to do. It's like a reset. Story 37. Eating healthier, lots of spinach beets, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, pistachios, watermelon 2x day, chicken, salmon, or tuna, and eating 1 or husk normal meal a day and only a salad few hours later. Never any fried food. Stretching every morning, which I always thought was a waste of time. 45 mins in the gym. Story 38. Daily turmeric supplement for my arthritis. I went 7 years with terrible full body inflammation. Literally 2 days into taking 1,500 millinostrand turmeric absolutely changed my life. I could squat and get back up with no problem. I woke up and could move my fingers immediately. My hips, elbows weren't in pain. I have my life back. Story 39. The ability to step back and stop worrying about what others might think. This may be your clothes, hair, personality, and the list just goes on. I realized that I had become someone that I no longer liked or even recognized because I had become so desperate to please everyone except myself. It didn't happen overnight, but it really became my personal mantra that I was deserving and interesting. That changed almost every aspect of my life for the better. Story 40. I used to work in restaurants. I dislike it and always said, I'm about to go back to school. Well, I got in a fight with my boss one day and went home and applied for community college, then put in my notice. I got a job almost right away in my field, and make about 42 hour now. It's the best thing I ever did. Story 41. Not being so invested in what other people think of me and learning to live with mistakes. I think it's bullshit to say I don't care anymore what anyone thinks of me, but it's just not all consuming. I know that I move with good intentions, and if I'm just not everyone's cup of tea, then fudge 'em. I can't be responsible for someone else's emotional state or attitude toward me. Story 42. Becoming a morning person. I get enough sleep every night unless something wakes me up. Getting older, so I can't always get back to sleep if that happens. I turn off my alarm before it goes off 90 of the time and only set one to ensure I don't cut into my free time by oversleeping. I never ever have to rush through my morning before work, which is amazing. I absolutely dislike the mad scramble to get ready for work and the risk of being late. I can eat a leisurely breakfast, get in an hour or two of gaming, watch a show or whatever I want to do. I often like to go for a walk for an hour or so. In the warmer months, it's a nice experience because it's light enough to see out, not too hot yet, and there's almost no one around. Just the birds. I've caught glimpses of plenty of wildlife I'd normally never see. It's nice. Gardening is also great at that time of day. I show up to work early, fully awake, and already partway into my day, and I don't require stimulants like coffee or energy drinks. I switched to herbal tea, and now my stomach feels better. I'm actually more clear-headed, and I cut back on my trips to the urinal by about 50. I had fun being a night person for a decade or so, but I feel happier and healthier now that I get up with the sun. Granted, there are a few downsides. If your social circle includes a lot of night owls, you're going to have scheduling conflicts. Getting weird looks for eating lunch at 10 a.m., even though it's been 5 hours since breakfast, is irritating. It's past my bedtime becomes a very valid complaint. If you like the ambiance of a city at night, as I do, you won't get to enjoy that as much either. Won't change back to a night person, though. Too many benefits to doing things early. Story 43. Getting sober from adult beverage. I've had a few slips since 2023 after liver failure, but today I'm proud to be 41 days sober again. I'm so much more motivated and positive this time. I'm grateful my lapses only lasted a couple of days, a few days before I picked myself, dusted myself off, and threw myself back into recovery. I honestly felt so ashamed of falling down that I just completely mentally flatlined, so more lapses happened. This time my fire has come back with such a spark. Story 44. Rucking, I have a heavy bag near the front door, and whenever I leave the house, I pop it on. I like walking. It is a relaxing exercise, and popping another 15 killers on my back gives me an insane amount more benefits. I would suggest everyone does this. Story 45. Eating while working on the clock. Doing manual labor, I find I'm a lot more efficient and agile than eating a big meal before going to work. I also feel a lot less bloated, which can be distracting. Story 46. Riding my bike to work. I lived only 4.5 kilometers from work, but for 14 years drove and disliked it. Then during Bike to Work Day, I took a vacation day and biked to Toronto City Hall. Got a city cycling map, studied it, and found a safe route to cycle to work. Did it for 3 years, year-round, until I retired. Story 47. Using an electric epilator with tweezers instead of shaving. Total game changer, especially for underarms. Yeah, it can hurt a lot, especially in sensitive areas, but the results are 100 worth it. Smoother skin, no razor bumps, and the hair takes way longer to grow back. Try it once, and you'll never look at a razor the same way again. Tantuform. Story 48. Got sober. I can think clearly. I'm saving money. I'm not angry and depressed. I eat better and sleep better. Got a much better job. I care more about little things. Nobody says it's easy, but I was ready. I have no urge or desire to drink ever again. I hit bottom and bounced 3 times. I didn't get sober the first time or second time, but I'm 4 years sober now and life is good. Story 49. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Choosing what is best for me when I know it's something I'm terrified to do. I'm about to speak in front of 300 people in August for an event, and am terrified, but I agreed to it, knowing I would be. Story 50. This is the truth. Just logging your calories alone will help in the process. It gives your mind a different reward mechanism that is also associated with food, which is my favorite thing, but not restrictive in what you can eat. Story 51. I'm glad you love doggy daycare. I found it really stressful. It was dog boarding with outside playtime. I felt like I was constantly on edge trying to prevent fights. My job was a lot more than playtime though, and the owner asked a lot out of me. Sucks BC, I was so excited for that job. Story 52. Condolences for your loss. I left the corporate world after my dad died. Same thing. You just can't take that bullshit seriously after you go through the spiritual door of losing someone like that. I'm glad the dogs are helping. Dogs really are the best. Keep taking care of yourself, friend. Atori 53. This is totally none of my business, but I'm assuming there's a huge difference in what you bring home financially from corporate to doggy daycare. Can I ask how you keep yourself afloat? Doggy daycare would be a dream. Story 54. Honestly, this is such a mood. I got fired from my job last year. While on unemployment and battling depression, I made some pet sitting dog walking posters and started picking up gigs on Rover. Now I'm doing dog walking, a pet sitting full-time. These last couple of months, I've made almost triple what I made at my previous office job. Being able to make my own schedule has done wonders for my mental well-being. Story 55. The way I put it is, I stopped trying to save the world. I'm still going to help people in my vicinity. I have the power to help, but I'm not going to go hunting for people who need help. It's hubris to imagine you have the capability to save everyone in the world while still taking care of yourself. Story 56. Be careful about belonging to high-demand religions or organizations too. They can distort your own healthy notions of self-care. I had had a nervous breakdown and was an inpatient in a mental hospital, and wasn't until I was actually in therapy that I found out that it was okay to take care of myself. My religion taught me, lose yourself in the work, which is another way of saying, forget yourself and think only about the organization. And if you only think about us, you won't realize that you have any problems. It almost destroyed my life. Story 57. An inverse of this is that it's good to sometimes think about others. I'm a person who has issues with emotional and affective empathy. I can conceptualize how others might feel, but only by actively thinking about it. It is not natural to me at all, and I've struggled my whole life trying to understand this. This has led to me being a very selfish person in the past. Being selfish can help in a lot of ways, but as I get older, I recognize that helping others out and being more selfless has its own benefits. Story 58. Whenever a friend or colleague has had a burnout, one thing they do to protect themselves is they stop giving a shoot. I adopted the same mentality 10 years ago. Everyone else is always running from meeting to meeting, telling me how busy they are or pretending to be busy. Meanwhile, I haven't suffered a day at work, except for the uncertainty during layoffs. I just take it chill, and the second I clock out, I actually clock out and don't care about work, even a little bit, unless I'm back at work again. Like real-life severance. Story 59. Isn't it nice? I think there's something prophetic about the movie Office Space. If you haven't seen it, 1, watch it, and 2, his hypnotist has a heart attack mid-hypnosis, and Peter, the main character, goes about the rest of his life with a don't give a shoot attitude. This results in glowing performance reviews at work by a consulting company that is looking to downsize the company, except for Peter, who has management written all over him. I don't even have the FU money yet, but I'm a managing broker at a real estate firm and part owner of, so I have FU cash flow. Not quite the same thing, but I'm no longer scared of the VPs and C-suite. They can throw all the tantrums they want, and it's not going to make me their whipping boy or errand boy. I work the hours I work. I save the company millions. If they want to try to and distribute my job to mindless simps and yes men, they can have at it, and my salary will double when they inevitably ask me to come back. Story 60. Fun fact, cars can last 10 years. No one knows how many different pants you own or care if you wear them 3 times in a week. True wealth is built by accumulating cash and investing, not buying depreciating assets to fill that void to keep up with the Joneses. Story 61. I'm the exact opposite. I need to remind myself to purchase basics and that I deserve comfort. It took me until my mid-30s to buy a couch. Most of my furniture is broken, and my clothing is sparse, full of holes and ill-fitting. I am upper class per my income, but grew up poor, and it's challenging to shake that scarcity mindset. Answer, hi downtown. Thanks for the reply. That's actually a really interesting opposite point of view. A scarcity mindset is a very difficult thing to contend with. I suppose naively I've been speaking above from a place of abundance and didn't think to take into account the idea that somebody could be living in, forgive me for saying this, I could be wrong, some kind of self-imposed poverty, which is not what I'm advocating at all with my idea. So thank you for bringing your position into my awareness. I'd love to hear more of your story. Story 62. This one is so underrated. I love reading and I love books. I used to have 10 bookshelves worth. Then I had to move overseas for work, and I got rid of everything that wasn't out of print, unique, or otherwise not easily replaced. Cut my book collection down to about 30 books in total. Thought I would be gutted, turns out I loved it. Now when I or someone looks at my book collection, If they grab a book, they're going to see something cool, not just random paperback 4233. I can't go full minimalist because I have a wife and kids, but if I lived alone, I'd be actively trying to have as few things as possible, other than furniture and wall art. Story 63. Yes, I have a face moisturizer at home that I've been using for months. Not a fan of the texture, but it's working and it's lasting. I almost bought a new face moisturizer the other day, but I stopped myself. Nope, I have one at home that's doing the job and is half full. Story 64. This is why I think honest education about substances use is so important. The just say no culture probably did more harm than good. Kids smell bullshit, and when you say you're going to get addicted the first time you do a pot, or you're funding terrorism with your dime bag, then they try it and find out substances are awesome, and it was all a lie. The same flip side. With legalization, it was like JK plant substance is great and has no downsides. Well, science and anecdotal evidence like yours says that is complete bullshit. The South Park monologue about substances use was more anti-substances than any school program ever was. I think occasional use is still fine for some people in moderation, but just like adult beverage, if you let it become a big part of your life, it can be devastating. Story 65. With a lot of addictions, not just plant substance, people often say it helps with their anxiety. What they may not realize is that the addiction is actually causing the anxiety and feeding. It relieves them temporarily. That's just how addictions work. Story 66. Yeah, I smoked for 10 years, 8 of those heavy use, and the last 5 all day, every day. I stopped doing that about 9 months ago, and my life totally changed. I'm saving money, losing weight. My family's happy to be around me again. I'm also way less depressed and stopped needing to take the cocktail of antidepressants I've been on for years. I still smoke occasionally if someone offers it to me, but I don't allow myself to purchase or keep plant substance in my home anymore. Honestly, smoking gives me anxiety now, so it's not even that fun if I do take a hit. Stopping totally my improved life, and I was in denial of it for years. Story 67. I smoke several times a day every day for the past 3 years, and smoked plant substance on and off for altogether about 9 years. It has been so helpful with my anxiety, and I feel like it regulates my mind so that I can just relax and not spiral into negative thoughts. That being said, I have become increasingly lazier and become more of a hermit than I already was before. Answer. I was smoking 2 grams of oil a day. I did that for the last 5 or so years. Before that, it was just a ton of flour. I was smoking all day every day, even getting up at night to smoke and go back to bed. Most nights I would do that multiple times. I was completely out of control. And it took me to a very, very dark place mentally. It's amazing how clear hindsight is, because in the moment I was blind to how bad I was getting. What I don't know is how much I choose not to see versus how much I legitimately didn't see. But quitting has been a huge change in my life. I've been able to pull myself out of the darkness. My band, which was on a permanent hiatus, is now back together. And most importantly, I'm able to be there for my friends and family, something I couldn't do for so many years. It's a common misconception that plant substance is in habit forming and it's not going to hurt you. In reality, just like anything else, if you go overboard, it very much can be and can hurt you. I'm glad your experience has been better than mine was. The only advice I have is to just remember it's a slippery slope and to be aware of that. Story 68. Yep, same boat. Absolute veteran stoner for 10 years, and one day I realized it wasn't fun or helping me anymore and was essentially just a crutch. If anything, it started making my anxiety and depression worse, and I was mostly addicted to the ritual habit. Story 69. I relate to this a lot. I still use, but only at night. I used to smoke all day every day, but it made my anxiety and depression bubble up. I used to think plant substance had no drawbacks, but like anything in excess, the difference between medicine and poison is the dose. Story 70. I was a daily smoker for 35 years, and I just up and quit one day for really no reason. My wife and I were on a 3-week road trip, and I had stocked up before we left, so I had plenty with me. On day 2, we stopped for the night, and I took a couple hits before we went to sleep. And that was it. I haven't touched it again for almost 3 years now. Still don't have a reason for stopping, but I certainly don't miss it. Story 71. I really want to do this, but just don't know where to start. I'm a rubbish cook and usually buy the easiest things to cook from supermarket. Even when I cook a curry or spaghetti bolognese, it's just from a jar. Story 72. I've been hit with this realization the past few months. My family doesn't have the capacity to truly support me in the way that I need. I'm ultimately going to have to build the life I want with zero useful support or guidance. They don't think deeply enough about life in general to provide actual guidance. It's a sobering thing to realize, but it's also incredibly freeing to realize that you are the only person you can depend on. Story 73. I feel this as well. Whenever something sucks or it feels like I have no autonomy over my life, I always say, we work with the hand we're dealt, and it helps me think of creative solutions to either better or find a way out of the current predicament. Story 74. I had a scare with this, but it turned out I have folliculitis. After all the research I did, though, I can say you're stronger than most everyone in this thread. That disease is no joke. I hope it never recurs for you. Story 75. I've been able to fight my HS pretty successfully, without surgery. What worked for me? Clean cotton only on skin, switched to dye-free, detergent-free soaps, Dove-sensitive skin. I have a monthly dose of Xolair, unrelated condition, but I feel it helps flare-ups. I take Singular and Zwiazal daily. No flare-ups, no sores. I too have been able to lose weight. Story 76. Now this underrated ASF. I think having good quality items for the things you use constantly, like towels or even like your mattress or bedsheet covers, is so important. Your mind reflects your living environment, and your living environment affects your mind. Story 77. As someone who is very experienced in their field with a degree and has been hunting for any job for the last 14 months, I have to disagree with that last one. If I lost my job, I'd be homeless within a month. Story 78. You really have to know how to choose the people you surround yourself with. They can either lead you down the wrong path or, on the contrary, they can make your life so much better, full of peace and harmony. Sometimes the new people who come into your life, people you've just met, can bring you more value than those you've known for years. Story 79. There's a few brilliant and extremely hardworking people who have been at my company for 15, 20 years, and they're so underpaid and underappreciated, but they got the job out of high school and just never tried working anywhere else. Answer. I'm on my third job since graduating college. I've been in my industry for 30 years. I really liked my previous job until things took a turn, and my job became more focused into solving business problems the CEO was incapable of fixing themselves. My job was great when I was just doing engineering, but as soon as I was tasked with also righting the ship and making the company more profitable, it became very antagonistic. I survived a year before deciding to leave. My immediate boss and I had been with the company 25 years. They let go my boss 3 months after I left. The solution to the profitability issue they employed was to have more work than people and put employees under the constant stress of having too much to do and no time to do it. Story 80. I came to say this. I should have gotten it 10 years ago. I didn't realize how much energy I expended just walking to the bathroom in the morning and from the bathroom in the evening to pop my contacts in and out. It was nothing. Been doing it for years. I tell everyone that even has slight vision issues to get it done. For what it's worth, I was 6', so my vision was almost too bad to do it at all. Answer. Yeah, I couldn't get on with contacts at all. So uncomfortable and they just dried up. I go to gigs, festivals, etc. I do sports, a lot of DIY getting dusty and covered in shoot, plus riding a motorcycle as a daily back before I had to put them through the helmet. I was breaking or ruining 2-3 pairs of glasses a year, which is bad, but worse was the rest of the time they were always dirty or covered in scratches. Plus, it's just annoying. They steam up, they fall off, they glare and just get in the way of life. Best $4,000 I spent getting LASIK. Huge reward to cost ratio compared to most anything else you can spend that money on. Story 81. Can I ask what bother you about Florida? I'm retired now and a snowbird. I have a little place down in Florida where I stay for the winter. I feel so much better when I come up north back to Pennsylvania. Some mental health thing. Answer. First and foremost, the weather. Year-round heat and humidity had done its job in wearing us down. My husband is a New Englander through and through, and he's a cold weather man. I had lived in Fla since '82. We left in 2017-ish, so I was done. And over that aspect of just being stuck in a place, we also saw crummy politics coming down the pipeline, and with a young child at the time, we saw it was time to go. Some other things was being young, and living in a retirement town was a drag. We had family that had already moved north and had convinced us to move, and we were looking for upwards mobility for my husband in finance. Being closer to a city seemed more logical. We almost chose PA. It was second in the running. We were looking at the Malvern, Westchester, Phoenixville area. Story 82. I'm in veterinary medicine school to become a vet, and I learned that very often vaccines and medication are really important. But quite a few, like Simparica, are problematic. Same goes with antidepressants, even if I'm not in the field. I've talked to my psychiatrist about it. There are differences in how much side effects each of these AD have. It's better to try talk therapy first and not immediately take medication. Story 83. Hey, I've got an idea. I'm fat too, but really fat. I think it might help if I had someone that I didn't want to disappoint if I fail, besides myself. Maybe we could try to record our progress together, share ideas, or maybe just our plan. For my age, I should not be this heavy, and I really want to lose this. I feel like it would help if I am working towards a shared goal with somebody who is going through something similar. If it sounds like something that may help you stay committed as well, then just DM me. If anybody else wants to do this too, then the same goes for you. I personally don't remember a time when I wasn't overweight, so I don't really know what being skinny feels like, but I'd like to know. Story 84. It also gives you a baseline to be able to see improvement. I started accurately tracking my binges, and it was amazing to see how much better they got over time. I've been tracking calories for 18 months now, and I'm 160 beers down, and sometimes it's easy to think that nothing has changed, but looking back at where I started, it's clear that everything has changed. Story 85. Same. I would have loved the job if it wasn't for the psychopath boss and mean girl groomers. I loved hanging out with dogs all day, cleaning and playing. Also got bit multiple times. There was so much wrong with the place, though. It was a lawsuit waiting to happen. I wish I could do it again, but in a better environment. Story 86. I'm sorry you've had to go through that. My boss is wonderful, and the dogs we let in are heavily screened. I've watched my boss more than a few times tell a client their dog wasn't working out and wasn't invited back, usually behavior issues that endanger other dogs or staff. Story 87. I was 3 years from retirement anyway, so ready to exit soon, and I just went early and made it work. Sold our house after he died and made a good amount of return on that to supplement until I can tap into my 401ks at 59.5. 9 more months for me. I'm now in the process of getting my long-stay visa, American in New England now, to move to France for a while, maybe forever, going in 2 weeks to scout out areas and villages I like. Story 88. Did you find Rover to be a good starting point for dog walking? I've thought about signing up for it because I need a flexible job that's not corporate. Plus, I love doggos and have cared for many a needy pup in my day. But some of the stories I read about it terrify me. Story 89. I really like how you put this. It hits home for me because I used to go out of my way to help everyone, especially when I was younger. I had friends dealing with mental health stuff, and I thought I could fix it for them, until I eventually realized that not everyone wants their problems fixed, and sometimes there are things that can't be fixed by anyone but themselves. It really helped me take care of myself a lot more. Story 90. Attend to what is directly before you. You have no responsibility to save the world or find the solutions to all problems, but to attend to your particular personal corner of the universe. As each person does that, the world saves itself. Story 91. This was also exactly Jim Jones's strategy in Guyana. The survivors from the Kool-Aid fiasco later said that he used to work everyone dead tired in the fields daily. This way, they never had time to worry about their own problems or notice they were being exploited. And the few who did were also too exhausted to do much about it. Story 92. That sounds so nice, but please explain to my as if I am a 5-year-old. How? How do you not care? I would love to take this attitude, but I literally do not know how. Whenever I am off work, I stress about conversations I have HD or are to come, deadlines, whether I could have handled stuff better. How do I let go? Answer. I wanted to add one more thing. In addition to what I wrote in the last wall of text reply, the conscious decision to not give a darn takes effort. You have to be strong and actually force yourself to be that way at first. Gradually, it starts to come naturally, and you will start noticing other people, often the successful ones, doing the same. Then it will feel really good to have cracked the code to a healthy work-life balance. One way is to dissect various projects you are dreading. That quarterly report you should have finished. How does that actually affect your real life and well-being if it gets delayed by one day? Have you been slacking at work, or has there just not been enough time to complete it? Just tell your boss in a professional tone that there just hasn't been time to finish it yet, but you're working on it. It will be done tomorrow. And when you go home, you forget the report. You are not getting paid for obsessing about it at night. It's not your fault they are asking you to do more than a person can reasonably handle. Get a little angry about that. Then just turn everything off, go make that burger on the BBQ, watch the new episode of Andor on TV, have a beer. It will all be there when you get back in the morning. Good luck. Story 93. To be let go or fired for not working hard enough means you have to be significantly underperforming in most places. One thing I also realized is that I get nearly the same amount done whether I'm stressing over it or not, so there's no point in stressing it. Story 94. Hi, downtown. Thanks for the reply. That's actually a really opposite point of view. A scarcity mindset is a very difficult thing to contend with. I suppose naively I've been speaking above from a place of abundance and didn't think to take into account the idea that somebody could be living in, forgive me for saying this, I could be wrong, some kind of self-imposed poverty, which is not what I'm advocating at all with my idea. So thank you for bringing your position into my awareness. I'd love to hear more of your story. Answer, agree with Downtown Ham. We were raised to always save and never spend on extravagance, always bought used cars, have clothing that's 10 years old, enjoy thrift shopping, did the digital nomad thing for a while, and all our possessions fit in a storage unit, known as the most frugal cheapskates on both sides of the family. This put us in a great financial position, but we've realized in our midlife that the time for delayed gratification is over. Just read the book Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. We can afford to scuba dive, take parents on vacation, etc., and have started doing all that now. Just bought a house with a pool. Story 95. Had a car for sale and remembered having to answer all of the replies from the ads, managing the logistics of the transaction that had me canceled a weekend getaway and saying to my wife, I wonder who owns who now. Story 96. Hi, Lana. That's fantastic. It's little wins like that that lead to lasting change. People these days think that change always has to be huge. Change has to be sudden, explosive, world-shattering. But humans don't generally work like that. We work by changing our behavior one little bit at a time, one win building on the other. Just like each step builds on the previous step to take us to the top of a mountain, we can't, or at least I can't, jump directly to the top. Story 97. Hi. What more can you ask for? You are simplifying your life, and you are helping people by donating your clothes. Good effort. I tend to bag up clothes I want to donate, then put them up my loft for 3 months with a reminder on my calendar to check them. If in that time I haven't looked on the back because I missed something, I just donate without looking. Story 98. Not OP. I work for a state government. My work revolves around a computer and internet connection. I showed great work performance for my first year of employment in the office. COVID happened and we worked remotely for several months. After coming back to the office, my spouse got a job 120 RR 30 miles away, but in the same state. I requested for my work to allow me to work remotely, and they agreed, which has surprised me. I signed a telecommuting agreement back in 2021, and I've been working remotely since then. Occasionally, I have to drive to the office a couple of times a year. It was luck in the fact that I get shoot done without much manager oversight. Story 99. I was smoking 2 grams of oil a day. I did that for the last 5 or so years. Before that, it was just a ton of flour. I was smoking all day, every day, even getting up at night to smoke and go back to bed. Most nights I would do that multiple times. I was completely out of control. And it took me to a very, very dark place mentally. It's amazing how clear hindsight is, because in the moment I was blind to how bad I was getting. What I don't know is how much I choose not to see versus how much I legitimately didn't see. But quitting has been a huge change in my life. I've been able to pull myself out of the darkness. My band, which was on a permanent hiatus, is now back together. And most importantly, I'm able to be there for my friends and family, something I couldn't do for so many years. It's a common misconception that plant substance isn't habit forming and it's not going to hurt you. In reality, just like anything else, if you go overboard, it very much can be and can hurt you. I'm glad your experience has been better than mine was. The only advice I have is to just remember it's a slippery slope and to be aware of that. Story 100. I went from a daily smoker to doing it once every 2 weeks or so. Sometimes a little more, sometimes less. The change has been pretty positive, both in how I feel when high and sober. I also only use edibles now. Smoke is never good for your health. Quitting cold turkey isn't always necessary, but I'd say daily or even every other day is too often for anyone. Story 101. I quit plant substance 3 years ago, and since I have had 1 migraine and maybe a headache every 2 months or so. I used to have them most weeks when I was still smoking. My overall stress levels just went down like 85. Story 102. For real, I spent my teens and 20s eating terrible food, drinking sugary soda, crappy sleep schedule, and lo and behold, I was super depressed. I also had a pretty bad emotionally unstable household, switched schools often, and had no friends, which certainly contributed. But the crappy lifestyle really did some work preventing me from improving. Story 103. There's processed and ultra-processed. Both not great, but ultra-processed is bad. Basically, anything already put together. Also, pretty much all fast food, even beloved Chick-fil-A, garbage. Look up videos from Bobby Parrish on YouTube. You will learn a lot. If you follow this, your energy, enthusiasm, sleep, waistline all greatly improve. It's less about calorie counting than it is about choosing better. Story 104. I've realized the same about my parents recently. Not gonna lie, it's hard to get past it. They're nice people, but I don't find myself wanting to see them much besides holidays and birthdays because of this. Any advice? Or maybe you could share your experience if you don't mind sharing. Answer: I think it helps to just appreciate your differences without expecting anything. Easier said than done, though, and I struggle with it sometimes. I try to catch myself anytime I feel like I'm not being understood, or that their advice or input about my life feels shallow and lacking depth or empathy. I have to basically remind myself that it's not loving towards myself to continue to expect them to suddenly have a radical shift in perspective. They operate from a different value system. Not better or worse, just different. I'm a very creative, artistic person, and I think very deeply about life, art, experiences, etc. But my family simply isn't like that and tends to focus more on small, day-to-day stuff, household projects, planning family events, etc., almost to the total exclusion of the big picture of life and true happiness or fulfillment. It creates a lot of tension when I feel like I need their advice or guidance, and I guess it's not entirely fair that I can't get that from them, but it's also made me realize the importance of being truly self-led in life and forming relationships with like-minded people outside of my family, which has made my life genuinely better. So there's a silver lining to it as well if you look at it like that. I love my parents and they're truly great people, but there are some things that we will simply never align on, and that's okay. The world would be boring if we were all the same. Story 105. I honestly recommend the book for everyone, but honestly, especially for those very focused on the grind. I won't say I'm in the best place ever financially or mentally, but I am slowly working towards things, knowing that hard times won't last as long as I keep doing my thing and being grateful for what I have. People smell desperation, but they also feel energy that is positive, and I think ultimately that's what causes law of attraction. Being grateful and positive draws others who are similar to you. It's kind of magical. Story 106. Buy expensive one, 100-300, because you're going to use them hours a day, every day, all year long. Each hour will be worth cents. So take good one, the one that you feel are almost the best. For me, it felt good to know that it's the best quality on the market for this range of price and to appreciate good sound. Any brand will do, but will not go for Apple Talk. Story 107. I honestly am not sure. They have JBL something written on them, but they are pretty good. Been working for years, but now one ear has lost sound in it. We'll be replacing it, probably with something else from Harman. Story 108. No, I got a patch of skin down to the meat taken out and the edges sewn together. Each was about 5 inches wide and 3-ish inches tall and football American shape. I got them done through Veterans Affairs. The surgeon that worked with me and my dermatologist called it a ridgectomy. Had one internal stitch to hold the newly sewn together skin to my armpit and a woven stitch to hold the edges together. He chose the woven stitch to cut down on the scarring. A couple days after surgery, I was instructed to use my arms like normal to help the skin stretch while I had the stitches to reinforce things. After 2 weeks, the woven stitch was removed and I had more range of motion than I did before the surgery. A month later, I had full range of motion and was all healed up. 10-10 would do again. Story 109. Thanks. I think I felt better after a few months. I have bipolar disorder, and adult beverage usually cause depression, so it was important to quit it. And sugar-free diet helped me to treat my acne. It's already 2 years without adult beverage and 1 year without sugar. I just can't believe it. Story 110. Yeah, my comment, unfortunately, isn't true for everyone. I was in a similar position many years ago and made the decision to sacrifice certain luxuries so that I could build up an emergency fund to float myself for a while if I decided to up and quit. It's helped my mental health immensely. Story 111. I'm on my 3rd job since graduating college. I've been in my industry for 30 years. I really liked my previous job until things took a turn and my job became more focused in solving business problems. The CEO was incapable of fixing themselves. My job was great when I was just doing engineering, But as soon as I was tasked with also righting the ship and making the company more profitable, it became very antagonistic. I survived a year before deciding to leave. My immediate boss and I had been with the company 25 years. They let go my boss 3 months after I left. The solution to the profitability issue they employed was to have more work than people and put employees under the constant stress of having too much to do and no time to do it. Story 112. OMG, get the CPAP. I was at 30-ish before, and now I'm under 3 every night. I have like 400 other things wrong with my body, but I can absolutely tell the difference between CPAP nights and nights I don't wear it. Story 113. As someone who is also divorced, totally depends on the GF. Being with the right person is amazing and fulfilling and wonderful. But being with the wrong person is way worse than being single. At least when you're single, you're only responsible for yourself, and you can at least have hope of finding a fulfilling relationship. When you're stuck with the wrong person, there's no hope at all. Story 114. Humans are built for relationships, whether in small groups or big ones. But we all crave connections with other humans. Being alone for a little time can be good, but when you find someone you click with, it's such an amazing experience. Story 115. Someone who is not moving forward in their own life and likes to try to keep you anchored in place with disinterest and discouragement, as your success and accomplishments make them uncomfortable. You might bring up to them that you want to travel or start a new career path. Their response is normally just something negative and deterring negative. Oh, I heard X place was not good to travel to. Why would you want to see that place when we have X here? Or, why would you leave X job? You're too old, underskilled, etc. to try. But at the same time, they complain about their own situation and do nothing to help it. Story 116. Yeah, I couldn't get on with contacts at all. So uncomfortable, and they just dried up. I go to gigs, festivals, etc. I do sports, a lot of DIY, getting dusty and covered in shoot, plus riding a motorcycle as a daily back before I had to put them through the helmet. I was breaking or ruining 2 to 3 pairs of glasses a year, which is bad, but worse was the rest of the time they were always dirty or covered in scratches. Plus, it's just annoying. They steam up, they fall off, they glare and just get in the way of life. Best $4,000 I spent getting LASIK. Huge reward to cost ratio compared to most anything else you can spend that money on. Story 117. First and foremost, the weather. Year-round heat and humidity had done its job in wearing us down. My husband is a New Englander through and through, and he's a cold weather man. I had lived in Flaw since '82. We left in 2017-ish. So I was done and over that aspect of just being stuck in a place. We also saw crummy politics coming down the pipeline, and with a young child at the time, we saw it was time to go. Some other things was being young, and living in a retirement town was a drag. We had family that had already moved north and had convinced us to move, and we were looking for upwards mobility for my husband in finance. Being closer to a city seemed more logical. We almost chose PA. It was second in the running. We were looking at the Malvern, Westchester, Phoenixville area. Story 118. Started out with depression and just not being able to eat. Lost 60 pounds in 6 months. To dig myself out of depression, I started working out and eating natural. Lost the rest and put on 12 pounds of muscle. Story 119. Going to piggyback here and give some advice from myself. I was 215, now at 183, on my way to 165. I am addicted to food, especially takeout. Living in LA, I'm driving past dozens and dozens of taco stands every day, and it's so hard to resist. I've forced myself to cook at home. I still kind of eat like shoot, but I found healthier alternatives to everything. Lower carb wraps, avocado spray oil instead of Evo in the pan, Greek yogurt instead of sour cream, keeping an eye on my calories, walking every day, and exercising a few times a week. I don't eliminate myself with the exercises. I'll jump rope or lift some weights for 30-45 minutes. The key is to not dislike yourself during the transition. Make it manageable and the progress will show. Story 120. Lost 110 kilograms of fat while adding 20 kilograms of muscle over the last year. 3 days a week of moderate weight training, dumbbells and weight plates, basic diet changes like opting for low-fat options where possible, and maxing out on protein, more meat, protein shakes, and eggs. Story 121. Burn more calories than you consume. Yes, it really is that easy. Track all your meals on an app and learn your daily active passive caloric burn by using an Apple Watch or Garmin or something. If you know you burn 2,500 calories per day, eat 1800, 2000, and bam. It's just a simple math problem. Story 122. Yeah, honestly, do this with every big goal TBH. You don't feel satisfied having done only 2 of the goal, but if you put it as a milestone, it feels more rewarding to slowly get there by crossing off each milestone one at a time. Story 123. Same as what you're dealing with. Sleep apnea was kicking my jerk and it sucked waking up multiple times a night gasping for air. My wife, then GF, was worried that I'd stop breathing in my sleep. I will say that even dropping from 250 down to 200 improved my sleep quality by a lot. It kept getting better and better until my current 150 lbs. I don't wake up sore nearly as often either. I find edit spelling.